Hello, everyone. So, got a little bit of news story right here. Let's get into it. Let's see. Ooh, I don't know what this video is about, but it says a female army commander faces wild claims she forcefully kissed and groped male troops. Uh, I've seen it happen. I'm a veteran myself, and I've seen that happen. It gets weird because it's usually when you get, especially in like the military, when you get women in like leadership roles, they're usually playing a part. They don't. It's not like a natural thing to them, and they try to play up the image of the tough guy. Like they try to fit in with the guys to a point where they have a caricature of what a man is supposed to be in their mind, and they play that role, and it comes off as very aggressive and forceful, and they don't get the reaction that they necessarily want from that, and especially in that situation. So when they get into those roles, they usually they become way more aggressive and masculine than they need to be, and that can come off in every action, every reaction that they have. If they feel offended, they're gonna go above and beyond in their reaction. If they feel anything, so if they feel uh, sexual or whatever, they're gonna be a little bit more aggressive in that action as well. And it's a weird thing to see, and it's just there are certain women that perfectly great leaders, and they can do that. I had one. I had a staff sergeant, and she was very feminine, very nice, and a very good leader. She has a way of speaking to you with a very calming way that you kind of want to do what she says, and it's actually quite surprising. But that's very rare. So I can see this happening, and it's very hard to like bring a case against a woman in this kind of situation. So it's probably like in a way where she's doing it in a way to kind of humiliate these guys rather than actually try to make a pass at them. So it's probably that's what it is, and that's why they kind of start complaining. All right, so uh, a female army officer is facing an investigation over allegations of multiple SA of male subordinates and overall pattern of harassment in the workplace. Colonel Megan Sullivan, who commands the Army's 5th Security Force Assistance Brigade, has been accused of forcefully kissing a male subordinate and groping another below the belt without his consent. Yeah. The commander, who is the first woman to lead SFAB battalion, is also accused of harassing several other male subordinates, according to the military.com. Okay. It is unclear whether the investigation into Sullivan is ongoing. It's hard to investigate. I mean, it's a he said, she said kind of situation. While the embattled officer appears to still be in command of the battalion, according to report. Yeah, we can't really strip her of command immediately, just from accusations. We have no information on that matter that we can share at this time. Security Force Assistance Command spokesperson, Sergeant First Class Adrian Patoka, told military.com. Also, a thing to keep in mind, these guys could be lying. Like they could have gotten in trouble for some reason or whatever, and they could just be lying. We take any and all allegations seriously and handle them appropriately as circumstances dictate. All right. The reported investigation comes as the Army has battled an epidemic of harassment in its ranks for several years. I mean, there was a reason that back in the 1920s and so like that they separated men and women in the workplace, because nature is going to. This is the thing. Society at one point was built with human nature in mind, and with a lot of progress in recent years, a lot of the natural facts that we know about human beings and the way we interact with each other has taken a back seat in favor of policies that simply punishes the natural consequences of these forced interactions, and which is a good way to weed out people that don't comply, but not a good way to run a system if you want it to run properly. Because especially in a situation like this where you have a commander and supposed to be in charge of the troops, and these kind of things, these little petty things can, I mean, it's not petty if it's, if it's true, but like just the accusation alone could ruin a situation, and now you have to deal with that. But you have thousands of people that have to, it's a troubling situation. So, I mean, I would, I mean, I want to make some jokes and be lighthearted about this, but it's one of those situations where it's a lot of nuances, so it's hard for me to be all jokey and sarcastic. Though, let's see. The reported investigation comes as the Army has battled an epidemic, in its ranks for several years, though male victims only account for 10%. Yeah, I mean, there was, I remember when I was in, there was a couple guys that like made accusations against like other dudes that were doing stuff to them, and it's very hard, especially when I was in, there was the don't ask, don't tell policy still in effect. And there was a lot of guys that it's like, they were very feminine in their actions, and people can tell right away that they're gay. And that made them vulnerable to other dudes that are like closeted and they could hide it better, and they were in powerful positions. They, you know what I mean? They feel a certain way and they start trying to take advantage of these guys that are very vulnerable, and they're very insecure about their, their sexuality, and they're in the military where they can't really talk about it and all this stuff. And there was a lot of dudes in powerful positions that were taking advantage of these guys, and there wasn't much they can do or say, you know what I mean? So like, and I mean, especially I know about this because I had friends that like, we freaking deployed together, and we, you know what I mean, we became good friends, we get to know each other, and these guys, I mean, I always had that I know there was don't ask, don't tell, but I always had a conversation with them, because like, if we're going to be friends, like you got to be honest with me, because especially in a situation when it's very obvious. I'm like, dude, I know, you know what I mean, I know how you are, I don't have a problem with it, other people might have a problem with it, but I want us to like have an open conversation where we're not like, you know what I mean, walking on eggshells and trying to avoid the subject and stuff like that, especially when it's obvious. And and I getting to know them and getting to sympathize with their situation, I understand how they can be taken advantage of in that situation. So, yeah, it's a weird situation. The amount of male victims is believed to be an undercount as a result of social stigma male soldiers faced when reporting. Yeah. The investigation also comes as Sullivan's boss, 5th SFAB Commander Colonel Jonathan Chung, is the subject of a probe involving allegations he has displayed poor leadership and engaged in abusive treatment of subordinates. All right, now that's just getting ridiculous, right? It could be a situation where his men don't respect him, because I saw a lot of that. His men don't respect him, and he engaged in some sort of retaliatory orders or whatever as a punishment. And yeah, so, and especially in the military, when you got to instill discipline, it's very hard to call out this kind of behavior. But it's happened. I know it happened to me. I remember had one master gunnery sergeant, man, that guy, oh my God, that dude was he had a bunch of the female Marines. So we had working in his office, and he was always flirting with them and doing all kinds of weird shit. And I would always see him every time I walked by his office. I would always see him staring at me and looking at me. And it was always weird. And I'm like, I don't like the dude is weird. The way he approaches these women are weird, and I just didn't trust him. So when I got promoted to corporal, and now I'm in charge of people and I got to do things, and I'm working kind of directly with him, because at the time he didn't have a sergeant or a staff sergeant to coordinate. So I was like directly taking orders from him. And there was a Marine that was a young guy. He just came into the Marine Corps, and dude decided to get married. He's 19 and getting married to an 18-year-old, and she was joining the Air Force, and I already knew it wasn't going to last. And she broke up with him, and he was crying, and he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do, and he was like crying, and I had to go talk to him, and he was getting he was like talking about self-deletion and that kind of stuff. Talking to him, and you know what I mean, just kind of explaining the situation to him. Like, I mean, they're young. It wasn't a good idea to get married, all that stuff. And he was just like, she joined the Air Force. The Air Force, she's young, she's attractive, bunch of dudes, military. Like, I already know how military girls are. She's gonna get ran through. There was no way his marriage was gonna last, and she broke up with him. Which, listen, I commend her for that. A lot of women would just stayed in the marriage to get that guaranteed higher pay and possibly housing, while cheating on their guy. And she broke it off right away. And I freaking commend her for that. But I had to talk to him. He was getting emotional. When he had a situation where he set up leave, he had to get leave to go to the airport to pick up a family member that was coming over. He put the request in months in advance, because his family member is coming in, and especially he's having a tough time, someone to talk to. He put a new request in, and he told me that it was going to happen, and let command know that he already put in the request. It's been in for a while, and he was going to go, but something changed. You know what I mean? There was a last minute order for people to kind of get into formation, and they were asking where he's at, and I told him, like, oh, he's got to go pick up his cousin at the airport. And he said, like, oh, get him back here right away. You can't let him leave and whatever. And it just, and I'm like, he already put an order months in advance. And he's like, and Master Gunnery Sergeant was like, I didn't hear about this. It was like, well, he put it in. He said he talked to the sergeant. It was like, it was a sergeant that I think his contract ended and he got out of the Marine Corps, or he got transferred, something like that. He got transferred and they didn't have a replacement for him at the time. But I think the sergeant send up the information. He wrote it down. He sent it up, but the Master Gunnery Sergeant obviously is not keeping track of that kind of stuff. So he didn't care. He wanted me to punish this guy, even though the dude didn't do anything wrong. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that, because he followed the rules. I'm not going to do that. After that, he hated me, and he tried to get me court-martialed for not following orders and all this stuff. And I had proof that I followed, you know what I mean? It was just one of those retaliatory, abusive use of power kind of stuff. And it was just weird, man. All right. Chung was suspended amid the investigation, according to military.com. The outlet, so her command was suspended, but she wasn't. The outlet talked to over 20 of the commander subordinates, of course, across multiple units, who almost universally detailed Chung's toxic leadership and inappropriate behavior. Okay, so they had evidence. In his case, that's why he was suspended. Okay. All right. So I don't know. This was supposed to be about her, but then her command he caught some strays. Yeah, this is a weird situation, man. I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. Anyways, till next time. Bye.